Hi, Veston here, and welcome to my top 5 Pokemon Battle Frontier episodes. Now, Season 9 is where things are about to get really interesting. And I mean really interesting. We're out of what is considered to be the classic or 4Kids era, but in my honest opinion, we haven't quite reached that new era yet. Battle Frontier was like a transitional period. From what I remember most about this season when it first premiered on Cartoon Network was that it was a mixed bag, most likely because a lot of the main characters were recast. As of this season until its last seasons, Sarah Natochenny took over the role of Ash, Michelle Knotts took on the roles of May, Jessie, and Misty, the latter of whom we won't see until the Alola seasons, Bill Rogers took over Brock, and the late James Carter Cathcart took over the roles of James, Meowth, and Professor Oak. And although it's disappointing to hear these actors try to mimic what the classic ones did, and while it takes a little get used to, I will give the dub credit for making sure that not every one of the original 4Kids voices were out of the series entirely. For example, Roger Parsons' return reclaimed his position as the narrator after being absent for most of Hoenn. And Casey Rogers, who took over Max, continued to do Wobbuffet, and she would continue to do so until the end of the Kalos region. And even Cathcart himself still did Gary Oak in his cameo at the end of the season. Now, all that said, as for the countdown, I had a hard time choosing episodes that stuck with me when I was 10 the first time it premiered. So I looked at these episodes and hardly found any one I could go back to. But there are a few that I do keep going back to because they are just so good. Which is why we're doing our last Pokemon countdown. I was initially going to add Battling the Enemy Within in my number 5 slot, but I decided not to because of Ash's recklessness, getting himself possessed by the Pokelantis demon, Team Rocket's unnecessary subplot, and Brandon being a cruel, inconsiderate jerk at his first appearance. But I will give it an honorable mention anyway, even if it is very flawed. So without further delay, as Lillian always says, let's get busy! Number 5 will be Strategy Tomorrow, Comedy Tonight. Let's start things off with a simple episode that was written by Yuki Yoshihashi. In this one, our heroes meet a girl named Ada, voiced by Annie Silver, and her parrot, Chatot, voiced by Sean Reyes. Unlike most Pokemon, Chatot has the ability to speak just like humans, mostly by mimicking whatever they say. Ada and Chatot are on their way to Johto to compete in a comedy Grand Prix as a comedy duo in order to win a chance to appear on a late-night talk show. What, is she going to be on Jay Leno? But there's a problem. Chatot is consistently flying away from Ada. But why? Well, I'll tell you why. You see, Chatot has been secretly doing a sideshow for a children's hospital nearby, and he entertained and made all sorts of kids laugh, including one girl named Corina. As you can tell by her face, she adores Chatot, but Ada informs her that they are heading for the Comedy Grand Prix very soon. Corina was saddened by this bit of news and ran off. This gives Ash and his friends the idea to entertain the kids with their own outdoor show. They even get the kids entertained when Team Rocket shows up and try to claim Chatot with a Pokemon battle. This was pretty good. I like the relationship between Ada and Chatot, as well as Corina and her adoration for Chatot's wisecracks. I also gotta point out, this is one of the few episodes Matthew Mittler was in after being absent from Season 4. In this episode, he voiced the head doctor. Not a bad start for the countdown, and a very good sneak peek at one of the Diamond and Pearl Pokemon. Fighting at number 4 is Wheel of Frontier. Now, this is where the fun begins. Ash and the gang get to the nearest battle arena and meet up with the Frontier director, Scott. He directs them to the Frontier Brain and the Arena Tycoon, Greta, voiced by Shannon Conley. Her gym is also somewhat of a judo training building, similar to the ones we've seen in Ariyo Sumiko's and Ninja Poke Showdown. Much like gym leaders, the Frontier Brain specialize in certain types of Pokemon, and in Greta's case, she uses fighting Pokemon. So it's Ash versus Greta for the Battle of the Gut symbol. Who will win? What I like about this episode is how action-packed it was. It shows that even despite the dubbing change, they can still have some fun with the action of the battles themselves. What's also surprising is that Ash brought his Snorlax along with him to duke it out against Greta. And unlike any Snorlax I've ever seen, Snorlax is capable of beating out Greta's Pokemon. What's also cool is that while they still retain the old 4Kids music for the dubs at the time, Shinji Miyazaki's arrangement for the Pokemon theme for the game has returned, and in the context, that makes a lot of sense. The triumph to get that gut symbol takes guts. Do you have it? As for number 3, I like all the May contest episodes, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with Weekend Warrior. In this one, it's the Silvertown Pokemon contest, as May is getting ready to duke it out. She's battling against a guy named Jeremy, voiced by Craig Blair, who has a very strange secret. You see, when he's out on stage, he's actually a rocker, complete with a flashy costume and an electric guitar, which is a complete departure from his professional look. But he is worried about his family finding out. Can he prove to be as good as he can in the competition? You'll just have to watch and see. What I like about this episode is that any character who is a Pokemon coordinator has their own unique personalities, and being a rock and roll star is quite a shocker for a lot of coordinators. But of course, the best part of every one of these Battle Frontier contest episodes is, of course, Lillian, the announcer. I love this girl. She's very energetic and knows what the fans want. And Casey Rogers puts a lot of enthusiasm into the character that she's so hard not to love. I think she's even better than Sister Vivian. The number 2 spot goes to Queen of the Serpentine. In this episode, Ash and his friends are ready to go to the battle pike to fight the Frontier Brain, Queen Lucy. Lucy is really cool. Her voice was provided by Emily Williams, who would also be Officer Jenny for most of this era. She gives off a more mellow and down-to-earth voice to the character that she'd be willing to battle anybody, and she knows how to stop annoying blondes like Barbara. Lucy even got the chance to fight out Team Rocket with her own Seviper using Flamethrower, something I don't think Jessie ever taught her Seviper to do. Now, with the battle underway, can Ash win his next symbol for luck? Oh, come on, I believe you've seen this episode already. You know he got it in the end. It's fun, it's action-packed, and I think Lucy really likes Brock. Know how I know? Well, she keeps blushing, and at the very end of the episode, we see that Lucy has plenty of Pokemon that have similar facial features like Skitty, Snorlax, and Abra, amongst others. If anything, even if she never got the chance to meet him again due to the annoying ear-tugging tag, she would have been a good girlfriend for Brock. And to no one's surprise, number 1 is the two-parter, Gathering the Gang of 4 and Pace, the Final Frontier. Gearing up for his third and final rematch with Brandon as a 4-on-4 battle, Ash has asked 3 of his original Pokemon to come back and help him, which includes Bulbasaur, Charizard, and Squirtle. Bulbasaur was delivered from Tracy, Charizard flew in from his valley, and Squirtle came via Officer Jenny. Speaking of which, for this season, while Pokemon has never had a big focus on Officer Jenny, it is really weird that she pretty much got downgraded this season. And now, back on track. They decide to spend the entire day trying to go back to Ash's old roots when he became a trainer to achieve better goals. They set up camp, get food, and they even get together for campfire stories about Ash's memories when he first caught each of them, including Pikachu. After fighting off Team Rocket to save Pikachu, Brandon drops by and is impressed by how he's improved over the last few weeks, that he's ready to battle him once again. And before the battle gets going, we get an unexpected but cool twist. We learn that Scott, who haven't commentates on the battles, is the owner of the Battle Frontier thing. And he has the opportunity to give Ash the opportunity to become the next Frontier Brain, provided if he wins against Brandon. Now, the stage is set, and Brandon's no longer being a jerk and calling Ash foolish. But he won't go easy on him. I'll just go through the battles quickly. First up, it's Dusclops versus Charizard. Charizard lost, unfortunately. In part 2, Bulbasaur steps in and avenges Charizard by fighting off Dusclops with Solar Beam. Then Squirtle steps up the plate and easily defeats Ninjask, but he's no match for Solrock, in which both Pokemon are knocked out. Still, Ash won 2 rounds with his Pokemon, and nothing could stop him. Brandon then brings out his final Reggie Pokemon, Regice, and Pikachu steps up to the plate. Now, Brandon said this would never be easy. No, he hit him with everything he had. But with Ash's faith in Pikachu, he was able to break free of the ice and fight back with Regice with speed and agility. And thanks to Pikachu, Ash won. And his prize was the Brave symbol. While Scott and Brandon are sorry that Ash doesn't want to be the next Frontier Brain, they respect that, and we get to close with Ash winning the plaque of all 7 symbols and his name in the Hall of Fame of the Battle Frontier. Hear that? I did a rhyme just in. I consider this funny, action-packed, a nice reunion for Ash's starter Pokemon, and an awesome victory for Ash. So if you're not a fan of the post-4Kids dubbed episodes, please at least check these 2 episodes out. It really is worth your time. This brings me to my final thoughts on Pokemon Battle Frontier. If Pokemon wasn't such a cash cow, the dub definitely would have been canceled right here. And you know what? I would have been fine with that. If we had had 6 amazing seasons followed up by 2 lukewarm ones, and one that had some great stories despite the recast, I would have been perfectly fine with it. While the entire vibe of most of the episodes of the season does not feel the same as seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or even seasons 7 and 8, it manages to do its own thing. It takes a lot of risks. Granted, it doesn't work a lot of time when it takes these risks, but they were really trying to make an effort to mix it up a little bit, and I respect them for it. Was it worth it to have some very good episodes despite the dub change? Yes, the episodes at this point, sure. But that's all the Pokemon countdowns I'm going to do. In the meantime, I'll be going back to my cartoon theories, and possibly random countdowns for other shows. But don't worry, if there ever comes an interesting Pokemon episode from the Sinnoh region, I'll cover it. Once again, happy 30th anniversary, Pokemon. Thank you for watching. This is Veston saying goodbye and be friends all kind of Pokemon.